Hello and welcome back to Justin Talks Villa, where for, I think it's the first time on my own channel, my very, very excellent friend, Miguel Echegaray, is in the building.
Jay Hizza. What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm very good, Matt, and I am over the moon to be once again sharing the screen with another positive Villa fan, which hopefully, despite the subject matter we are attempting to go over today, we can put a bit of light on it and we can put a bit of positivity into it and we can try and make some sense of the madness that has been the last 4 months of Aston Villa. But I'm going to take you right back now to where I'm going to start the conversation, and that is at the end of last season when I went to the end of season awards do, and Damien Vidagani got up and said a few words, and those words, basically to paraphrase what he said, was it's going to be a really tough summer. We're going to, that was just before we lost to Man United. So then the implications of that then over the summer came out. So I think my first sort of question to you is, or conversation starter is, where were you at that point as far as looking ahead? And how much of an impact, when you sort of heard those things coming out, did you expect there to be?
Yeah, Justin, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. When we lost to Manchester United, and let's remember, partly due to a horrific decision not to allow that Morgan Rogers goal, but that's neither here nor there. When we lost to Manchester United, and obviously it meant no Champions League football, there were definitely alarm bells inside of me because we all, not just me, knew just how important it was, economically speaking, financially speaking, for the 2025-2026 season. And Damien Vidagani, Damien, obviously from his English translation, he, I know him well. He's a good man, part of obviously the structure under Unai Emery. He is right. He was right in not sugarcoating the situation because it was indeed, as we all knew, was going to be a tough summer due to PSR, but not just PSR, but UEFA economical limitations as well. This was going to be a tough summer. And I think every Villa fan that follows the club very well and also understands, by the way, the realities of today's football, understands, especially in the Premier League, understands that it was going to be a tough one. Sales were needed to happen, whether we were going to bring anybody in. I mean, that was just a conversation non-starter. That was going to happen. And so things needed to materialize. We already knew it from the previous summer, of course, when it came to all the sales that needed to happen. And it wasn't just about that, but it was also about making sure that Villa stood within the regulations of what was to come within UEFA, PSR, etc. Of course, the self-sale of the women's club obviously was part of the project, copying a blueprint from the Chelsea handbook. I'm not a fan of it, but it's the reality of the game. It's the reality of the situation. And this is ultimately, everybody has a conversation about what happened in the summer in terms of bringing people in and obviously sales and everything. But here's my ultimate argument on everything, Justin, which is PSR is a good thing, but it needs incredibly aggressive restructuring because it's missing on one massive point, which is, and this is the example of what's happened with Manchester United, who were able to buy a lot of players this summer, despite the fact that they were just literally above the relegation zone and lost the Europa League final. It's because the moment the season ended, they went to Hong Kong, they went to Asia, because they know that they have a historical marketing power there. Money is already coming in because of who they are, historically speaking, from a marketing perspective. The same can be said of all the quote-unquote big six teams. Villa do not have that. We don't have the global marketing power of a Manchester United, of a Chelsea, of a Tottenham, of a Liverpool, and most recently for Manchester City. And PSR do not take that into consideration, right? And that's a massive problem. It's a massive problem. So I think that things like, bonuses or at least alleviations for having academy products that eventually stay in the club, that shouldn't be part of PSR at all. I don't think you should be, something needs to be done when it comes to maintaining these kind of players. And then the other component, which is what I've just said, is like there needs to be some consideration about a Newcastle United or an Aston Villa who are trying to be ambitious, but they can't break in because they're not bringing in the marketing power that the other clubs do. And that's part of revenue as in accordance to PSR. And that's a massive problem. So that obviously is neither here nor there. It's a conversation that needs to happen in the future, but the summer was always going to be difficult because of those situations, and sales needed to happen before we could even contemplate bringing anybody in. So before we get into, you know, the season that's been happening already, and we could talk about it, of course, people need to understand that Villa entered this season with one hand behind their back and one leg limping, trying to catch up to everybody else. And it's that's got nothing to do with Unai Emery's tactics. We'll talk about that in a second, but it's to do with the economical restrictions. So already we knew that, you know, winter is coming kind of thing. And this is a situation when it comes to the limited ambitions. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I was already realistic and ready for what was to come.
That winter is coming analogy is absolutely wonderful. Winter is coming. Hopefully it's not attacked as long as he does in the Game of Thrones. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you make some brilliant points. As that's why you're on. You know, this is why I get the man on the screen, because he speaks my language. So just going on from that a little bit. So we've seen an article come out today from John Percy, which is excellent, and obviously he's very well connected with Villa, and a lot of that, what he says, is very, I'm going to say, factual, because I'm sure he gets fed stuff to leak out and to talk about. And one of the things he brought up was the frustration of the players in the squad, that, you know, two of them have come out, and Konsa and McGinn have come out and been very vocal in that respect. But also, I think, and we won't talk about the footballing side just yet, but how much do you think that has impacted on the mindset of the players in the summer? When you look at the sale of Ramsey, which has been pretty much universally reported as not gone down that well in the dressing room. What I believe to be the Emi Martinez saga was the club, once they gave him the new contract, basically said to him, if we don't get Champions League football, get yourself a new agent and look around, because it looks like you might have to be sacrificed just to try and pay the bills. And that dragged on to the last day and then didn't go through. And then he's having to be reintegrated. So on top of the off-field team having to do the financials of it all and get everything straight, so we don't face financial regulations, points, deductions, and all these issues that we have to circumnavigate. But the playing squad, who are separate from that, and rightly so, it's not their responsibility to do that. You know, you have to trust the club are doing the right things to make sure that we're compliant. How much do you think that has impacted on the mindset going into the season? And do you think that is a factor potentially about what's borne out since?
Yeah, it's a great question. Let me just answer it just by imagine putting yourself in the shoes of a player like a John McGinn on an Ezri Konsa, right? Leaders of the dressing room, folks, especially John McGinn, who have been there from the very beginning, you know, knowing what it's taken to, you know, go all the way from the Championship after relegation back to the Premier League, and then, manager after manager, ownership after ownership as well. You go in and coming off a historic season where Villa won 1-0 against Bayern Munich, pushed the eventual champions Paris Saint-Germain to its very brink in the Champions League knockout stages. And just following the trajectory of confirming the facts that Unai Emery continues to deliver European football to Villa. So you're finishing off last season with this high, despite of the Manchester United loss, knowing that, look, we've still got Europa League football, we can continue, we can build, we can be a team, we're cohesive, we have everything in plan, we have extremely rich owners, you know, we have ambition. And then as a player, you're seeing a Jacob Ramsey no longer there in the training ground. You're seeing, you know, the reported news that they might have to sell Emiliano Martinez if they meet a fee, of course. You know, just the back and forth, the ins and outs of players, knowing that players are going to leave. Before that, it was Douglas Luiz leaving and everything like that. So if you're a human being like John McGinn or Ezri Konsa or Tyrone Mings, people that have been here for years, and you see this sort of carousel of ins and outs, and you know that it's got nothing to do with you. And in many ways as well, it's got nothing to do with Unai Emery, because he understands the financial implication. It's going to affect you. It's going to affect you.
I'm not cutting in, but all the club, it's they're having to make very, very hard decisions. And yes, these are humans, and these are they're not pieces of meat, but ultimately it's a business, and they are the assets of the business. And when money had to be raised, they had to look at which way they could raise it in a way that probably least impacted on the squad. But the sheer scale of what they had to do meant that was impossible.
Yeah, John McGinn said it himself a few weeks ago, I believe, literally saying, like, look, it's affecting us, and it's frustrating, and we want to be ambitious, but it's very difficult, to try and break in that party, that that quote unquote big six party, because it's trying to fight against the marketing power of the aforementioned teams I just talked about. So it's going to affect these players, and it's going to affect these players on a daily basis, because you see it in the faces of the coaches, you see it in the faces of Unai Emery, you see it, Vidagani is there every single day, Monchi trying to not desperately, but he's trying, they're definitely like, imagine that Jerry Maguire scene when Jerry's just trying to keep his client, right as he's being fired. It's the kind of same situation where, there's a deadline at the end of June where you have to meet PSR regulations. So you're frantically going all over the place. Players are obviously going to be influenced by this. You would have to be a fool to think that, no, I'm shutting everything out and just focusing on the pitch, because that's not the case, especially because you're seeing players in and out, coming out. So, it's not a good, healthy situation to be in. And it's really frustrating, because Villa knows what they need, what it needs to do to succeed. Like, they have a plan, they have a strategy, but they're being handcuffed. I want to repeat this. I am for financial regulations. It's very important. I am for it. I am for PSR. I am for UEFA's financial, discipline. Yeah, exactly. I'm for it. But there needs to be way more restructuring in order to understand. Like, if you're a club like Newcastle or Villa and you've achieved European football, there needs to be some kind of contextual understanding that, okay, you don't have the marketing power of a Manchester United, but you did come in the top 8 in the Premier League. That has to speak for something. So it's just tough, man. It's tough.
Yeah, and I think getting into Europe, it seems like we've been punished for qualifying for Europe, because the squad cost ratio in European legislation, if you like, is stricter than the Premier League one. And
very strict.
We're now in a really daft situation where, unless we get Champions League next year, I don't want to qualify for the other two competitions, because we will drop out of those issues of £50 million losses instead of 105 for the Premier League. And we don't, as I think I spoke to Kieran Maguire a few months ago, and I'm getting him back on soon, where he said that you don't earn hardly any money for qualifying in the conference or the Europa League, so it's not beneficial particularly to get in there. So I'm now thinking mid-table will be fine, because we won't get into Europe. And as a football fan that wants us to be the best we can be, I feel like we're getting punished for trying to show,
ambition.
Yeah, ambition. That's where we, and like we're talking about the summer, we are a football club. That's what we are. We play football. We entertain fans that turn up for that reason. Yet the whole summer was dictated by this ridiculous merry-go-round of trying to appease the rule makers in a way that was unfair. And then you got arguably one of our best managers of all time that's been backed by a brilliant ownership team and model. And all they're talking about is, right, who we've got to sell then, lads? Sitting around a table when they should be strategizing, who can we bring in now? Champions League, European qualifications, season after season. The level and quality of play should just be keeping improving, because we are a better, bigger team, a more, enticing entity to come and play for. Yet, all the outsiders looking in are going, well, Villa are finished because they're going to sell. And as John Percy said in that article today, he said, basically all the big clubs they were like vultures just circling. Brilliant. Villa are now knackered, and we'll just pick off all the best players. So I think, in fact, I don't know if you agree, we did well to keep hold of the players we did.
Yeah, I'm with one to suggest that first of all, the woe is me situation too has to also be contextual, because there's certain things that I think maybe even before Nasa Sawiris and Wes Edens came in, but the amount of wages that were being spent on certain players definitely has been a massive factor, and that Villa did have some self-inflicted wounds. But going back to my point, it's very difficult, in particular to a club like Villa or Newcastle United, to be ambitious when you're trying to compete against the marketing power of a Tottenham, a Manchester United, a Man City, Liverpool, etc. But I do want to really just bring back the reality that, I think, like, to your point, all in all, Emiliano Martinez is still at the club. Ollie Watkins is still at the club. Morgan Rogers, even though he just arrived, because we can have goldfish memories here. He hasn't been here that long. He's still at the club. Ezri Konsa is still at the club. Yuri Tillemans, the new captain of Belgium, is still at the club. So, there is still a spine that's there. I actually think Harvey Elliott is one of the best signings, like, full stop, out of any club, just because of the package that it was done. Jadon Sancho, I'm still a believer that, 25 years old, under the right manager like Unai Emery, he can hopefully do something. Marco Bissot had one of the highest, save percentages in Ligue 1 before he arrived to Villa, and he came. So, there is a project here to be made, and we'll get into obviously what's going on from a football perspective at the beginning of the season. But it's not all completely lost, and you got to look at clubs like Newcastle United, who they have Champions League football, and they really have been dealt a tough blow, having to, deal with the Alexander Isak situation, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, it's tough. But again, I return to everything. PSR is needed when it comes to financial discipline. It just needs a lot of restructuring, especially when you're a club. And by the way, I keep talking about Villa and Newcastle. What happens if Bournemouth climb higher up the table and get Champions League football or Europa League? What happens if a Brighton? These are teams, Brentford. These are teams that are Fulham. These are teams that are trying to break and become very competitive. But when you don't have the marketing power of the historically well-known, reputable, rich clubs in the Premier League, it's going to be a mountain to climb.
100%. I think the wages issue, probably the last bit we'll talk about on financials, is an interesting one that you bring up. And you're right, we did absolutely max out wages, and that percentage of wages to revenue was eye-watering. And one of the reasons we're now facing what we are, and I get that a lot. I get, you just pay silly wages to play. But when we were in the position we were in, trying to build, it's very difficult to entice the best of the best to come to you.
100%.
Pre-Champions League qualification.
Felipe Coutinho was never coming to Villa unless he was getting a very high wage. Dibu Martinez is a World Cup champion. He wanted a new restructured deal. Absolutely. Go ahead. Sorry, Marcus Rashford, of course. Yeah.
No, everybody. It's incentivizing players, which is basically not the only. This is a harsh thing to say, but what I'm trying to say is they understand money and they move for money. That's what they do. It's their job. So if we pay the best wages, we've got a better chance of signing the better players, because we can't just. It's irrelevant going out saying I've got 100 million to spend, because that £100 million player won't come to Villa. But if you go and sign the next tier down, and then you paid the best wages out of 5 clubs that are looking for him, they'll come to you. So it's a strategic, risky strategy that you could say has backfired to a point. But do we not want the owners to put us in this position where we're trying to buy the best players?
Well, the one thing that I'll say with that, Justin, I'm just sorry to interrupt, is that I really believe that one thing Villa really needs to do in the next few years, if not almost immediately, which is we need to seriously, and this falls under the umbrella of Monchi, we need to seriously put now a massive structural mindset, blueprint, strategy into really doing things like what Brighton and Hove Albion are doing, which is like really putting a lot of emphasis on where young, undiscovered gems can come to the club. Because also we need to really lower the average age of this squad. Like the modern game is now, I'm trying to write a book about it. The modern game is now becoming younger. It's much more agile. It's much more forward thinking when you look at the likes of, I'm speaking now into massive talent here, but when you look at the likes of Lamine Yamal or, players like this who are extremely, look at Arsenal, Ethan Nwaneri, we're talking about Generation Z, under 21, under 22 players who are absolutely delivering. We need to do everything we can to lower the age. And because we're not a Manchester City or we're a Liverpool, the best thing the Villa can do, I think, is follow the likes of a Brighton blueprint and really go out there and scout and understand the educational assets that you can get from really understanding that there are tremendous gems on there. Jon Hader Duran, aside from his, personality and obviously, his mindset, at his age, that was a tremendous get. So I think we need to do a lot there when it comes to, getting. And then when you do that, the wage is lower because these young players are not necessarily asking for, $500,000 a week, et cetera, et cetera. Moises Caicedo, when he was discovered and went to Brighton Football Club, now he's one of the best midfielders in the game. He was Alexis McAllister is another one. They came from South America. I'm just giving examples. Like we need to do everything we can to lower the average age of this squad. And the best way to do that is to really strengthen our scouting bubble, our scouting department.
I think they have tried to do that, and we've seen this real push to bring in a lot of young players. But I think at the frustration of a lot of fans that you sign a player like the Baranchella,
and so in a chair,
those kind of players,
Samuel Elling Jr.,
and they've come in and they've gone, and this turnover of player again is a sort of Chelsea blueprint where you just buy young, keep for 12 months, maybe loan out for a season, and then try and get a profit on them. But we're finding it difficult to get our head around these, and they're all designed to help us financially improve that and that's one way of doing it, player trading. But we will move on to obviously what we did in the summer, because I'd like to get your opinion on the signings. We've sort of talked about them a little bit, but obviously, given the constraints we was in, we didn't see a lot of move to the last day. So the two early ones were Ghassan and Bizot. You've already spoken highly of Bizot, and I was very impressed with him when I looked into him. And even at 34, I think he's been
excellent keeper, excellent
first choice everywhere he's been. So that was I think a good get. We all know that Robin Olsen, a lot of fans weren't having him at all. So I think that's
even though he had some good games and really delivered, like he deserves the respect of every Villa fan. Bizot is an upgrade on Robin Olsen, I think. Like he's a very good backup and a very good goalkeeper that will do the business. Whether it's in cup competitions, obviously not the Carabao Cup, but anytime he's called upon, basically. So go ahead. Let's look at this list.
Obviously, he's not a replacement for Ramsey, but we sold Ramsey for money. Ghassan was the big signing of the summer, financially wise. And I'll be honest, he's flattered to deceive. That's not me being negative on him, because I think I said this on an episode I did earlier. When I was a kid, and probably when you was a kid, players moving different countries, you would give them 12 months. When it was new, when players started moving between countries, because you didn't really see it when I was a proper young kid, but then it started happening a lot more. And then it was literally, you've got to give these players 12 months. I don't think that's the case as much now, because the world's a very much smaller place now and people move a lot from work. But are you at all concerned with Ghassan? I saw him as a sort of inside right player. That's where he did his best work for Nice, and that's where he burst onto the scene. We haven't seen him obviously have a run in the team yet, only 4 or 5 games in. But from what we've seen of him, maybe pre-Villa, a lot of fans are a little bit frustrated and worried. And there's been a bit of, not Monchi slagging off, but there's been a little bit of,
where
where are we with the incomings? Where are you with him?
Yeah, Evan Gerson, I share the frustration because, and I understand why he was purchased. I posted about it. I was very excited because his work prior to arriving to Aston Villa, not just, by the way, for Nice, but also for, the Ivory Coast, was very impressive. Like, he's, like, to your point, he's much better coming off that wing, but a lot of really great work. So people can talk about Ligue 1 all they want, but it has a lot of talent. But also he represents the Ivory Coast as well. Like, there's a lot of good work there. And at 24, his body of work continues to evolve. So I have been frustrated by what I've seen, especially in the last game. I think, but I agree with you. I think the problem with Evan Gerson right now is that he's entering a really difficult time for the club, and he really needs at least half a season to acclimate himself to the Premier League, because it is much faster, much stronger, with all due respect to Ligue 1. And when you look at his, he came off the bench. Well, he was on the bench against Newcastle. He had 15 minutes against Brentford, and he had 45 minutes each, Palace and Everton, before starting for Brentford in the Carabao Cup. So I think it's just too early to completely, nullify him. And I will absolutely detest any kind of abuse, because it's absolutely ridiculous. Let's all please, try and support this young man. But I mean, I have been frustrated, but I think the more he acclimates himself to the Premier League, I am hoping that he will improve, because I am not surprised at when we purchased him, because his body of work showed just how good he is. But I think right now he's struggling to acclimate. Hopefully with time, as the entire team becomes more confident, because let's not use him as a scapegoat here. We have not scored a single goal in the Premier League, right? Like, this is a collective issue right now that, by the way, I think the Unai Emery system doesn't suit him as much, but hopefully as he acclimates, it will get better. But yes, I am frustrated. I'm not going to lie, but I'm hoping that with more matches, with more minutes, he will become more comfortable.
Yeah, I think you're correct. He's our attacking output in that front four is been woeful all season. So just to highlight him as the main culprit, if you like, he's ridiculous. So
just my worry, Justin, though, is that because we don't have Carabao Cup anymore, that was a perfect avenue for him to really see a lot of minutes. So that's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would think he might even. I mean, I think the Europa League could suit him as well, playing sort of European.
Definitely,
that kind of way of playing might suit his game better. So then we move on to the last day of the window where everything happened. I really liked the Lindelof signing. I think somebody who I really like what he says about football told me, and I do agree with him. It is utterly pointless in our situation going out and spending a hell of a lot of money on a right-sided central defender, because let's be right, and I'll say it once again, I've said it in the last 3 games, Echegaray Konsa, for me, is the best central defender in the Premier League. So when he's fit, he plays. Pointless buying 20, 30, 40, 50 million pound player. Not that we could do that anyway. So to fill a gap, great signing. 31, Swedish captain, massive Premier League experience. It's a no-brainer from me.
Yeah, I agree. And it's all about experience here. It's all about experience. And to your point, nobody's taking that role of Echegaray Konsa. Now, I will say, though, that had we had the financial might, then yeah, I would have liked somebody like the reported JD Campbell, the French centre back who ended up going to Crystal Palace. He would have been a nice up and comer, so to speak. But we have to be realistic about our situation. And Victor Lindelof, I think, again, in a season, reminding every Villa fan, we have European football, everybody. Let's not forget, in a season when you have Europa League and still in the FA Cup and then the marathon-esque campaign of the Premier League, you're going to need some experience. You're going to need somebody. Nobody's saying that he's our number one, center back. He's somebody that's going to be on the bench. That's going to be, by the way, a leader in the dressing room. And I really do believe that's a massive need in this campaign. So I welcome it.
So the last two were Harvey Elliott, which I think we both think is a very good signing, burst onto the scene with Liverpool, coming from Fulham, had a absolutely outstanding under-21 tournament, the player of the tournament in the summer, and at 22 years of age, I feel a bit sorry for him having to come into what he's had to come into, because I think if he comes into a fully fit and firing Villa, he's a huge asset for us. But again, he's a symptom of what's the issues we're having in the front areas of the pitch, final third. But he scored our first goal. All right, wasn't a great strike, bit of a defensive mistake from the keeper, but very, very promising.
We're talking about, in my opinion, one of the most promising English players in the game right now. People are not remembering, or maybe hopefully they are, in the Euros under 21, England retained that title. Harvey Elliott was man of the tournament. This is a player who, unfortunately, for his sake, because of the embarrassment of riches of Liverpool Football Club, it's very difficult for him to break in. Especially because nobody's, he's at his best when he's kind of like coming as an attacking midfielder from the right-hand side. That's Mohamed Salah territory. He's not taking that. So then you have, the likes of Alexis McAllister and Szoboszlai, and now, of course, once Florian Wirtz arrived, forget about it. It was just not going to happen for him. So Liverpool did the right thing by allowing him to pursue a 35 million package that activates itself after 10 appearances. Is a fantastic deal. This is a young man with a huge, huge high ceiling. You talked about his goal, obviously, but it's really about his work rate and everything that he does to help press, to help Villa become more mobile. He's fearless, and he's just going to keep growing. And we've already heard his quotes about Unai Emery, how he believes he's the type of manager that's going to help him develop in a season that's leading to the World Cup. He wants that spot in the England national team. Whether he makes it or not, that's a different story, but he's definitely in a place now that hopefully can help him elevate. And I was actually frustrated, I know we'll talk about it, but I was frustrated that Harvey Elliott didn't come on earlier in the previous game, not the Carabao Cup game, in the previous game, in the draw against Everton, because I think he's that good. I think he's that assertive, and we need somebody like that. So I love the Harvey Elliott signing. I'm a big fan of his, and he's going to, more to come from him. Absolutely zero doubt about that.
And the big talking point, the big, I'm going to say, fan-splitting opinions of this one, the Jadon Sancho signing. Now, I looked deeply into his career when he came, and, he was immediately written off by the media. Immediately written off. Waste of space, doesn't want to know, terrible attitude, stinks the place out everywhere he goes. Can't wait to get rid of him everywhere he's played. But you look at his Dortmund career and pre-Dortmund, the lad is a proper talent. And with Unai Emery's, like you say, body of work of improving and picking players up that are in his situation and getting the best out of them, I don't think currently he could have a better platform now to, I'm not going to say his last chance, but one of his last chances at a big Premier League club to properly settle and have an impact somewhere. I think this could be a great signing. Everybody wrote Rashford off in January, said exactly the same things about him. It's up to Sancho now. I think that's the big key for me.
Yeah. That's a very good lasting point you just made. I mean, it's definitely up to him. Look, I'll just begin with this, okay? We live in this horrific social media frantic world where we dehumanize people all the time. And athletes are up there where you don't like the productivity of a player. You insult him, you begrudge him, you make him feel worthless. And you began by saying how you've been reading and hearing all these comments. I've been doing exactly the same thing. And the way that some people talk about Jadon Sancho, it makes me sick. Like, you may not like his football, you may not like him as a player, but to absolutely degrade him to the point of obviously affects his mental state is just horrible to me. There's nothing wrong with criticizing a player and his body of work, but to do it to the point of dehumanizing, and I really think, and the reason why I bring this up, Justin, is because I think it's been part of why he hasn't been able to find consistency or confidence since his Borussia Dortmund days. it has to hurt you. I mean, Marcus Rashford is a perfect example of that. And then he comes to Villa, and I said it right before he came that if you have the right mentor, the right management, the right environment, you're going to shine, and that's exactly what happened. And I think I agree with you. Maybe not so much to the imposing, overwhelming power of Rashford, but I think that Sancho can be the same thing. At 25 years old, he's in a pivotal point of his career where he can really, like you said, it's up to him to choose what he can be. And I saw some things in the Brentford game that I liked. And remember, it was his very first start for the club. It's very early in the season. I saw some things that I enjoyed. He can be very quick-witted on that left wing. And I think once he builds some confidence and learns more from the tactics and the strategy under Unai Emery, he's going to be very, very useful. But I really believe, just like Marcus Rashford, he is the type of player that needs the right environment. Yeah. And if Villa can be that, with Unai Emery, and not just him, but like all other English players, all other attack-minded players, if he can be in this environment and that can help him blossom, then I'm all for it. But at this very moment, every single Villa fan should be cheerleading for him. Every single one. Because his success is our success. And that's the ultimate goal right there. So I'm cheering for him. I liked certain things that I saw from the Brentford game, and I'm hoping that just grows and grows and grows.
Totally agree. Couldn't agree more. This is why I get you on. Absolutely get you on. You're like you're in my head sometimes. And we'll finish on Sancho. But when I looked into his first year at Man United, he had 4 managers in his first 12 months.
That's no way to grow, right?
10 months. And yet Man United fans, and the lad that's on the overlap that I met when I went on, he destroyed him. And I'm like, you go into a new job and talk to a manager that hires you, and then within 10 months, you've had 3 more managers. Nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody.
And that's what I meant, Justin. Yeah. You mentioned that comment. I don't want to say any names, but that's like it came to the point of dehumanizing the person. Yeah. I hate him. Like, I hate him. It's like, really? Like, this it brings this much out of you, like to hate?
Honestly, I don't understand it.
Any player. Like, I'm sorry. Like, Leon Bailey has been a very frustrating player for Aston Villa. Yeah. I will never and have never say that I hate him. Like, it's just, you need to understand that these players breed on confidence. And again, it's okay to look at his vulnerabilities and how good or wrong he is as a player, and you may not like him for your team, but I promise you this, like, these are people that rely on just being human beings, and so I'm rooting for him. And again, you said Borussia Dortmund, I mean, he was outstanding. And by the way, in the Conference League final for Chelsea last season against Real Betis, he was magnificent.
Yeah,
and that was last season.
Yeah.
So there is a player there. So I'm hoping that Unai Emery can get that out of him.
I've refused to believe that players go out onto any pitch on any given day and don't try their best. And I hear some of the things that are shouted at players, like poor first touch. I won't go into it.
Yeah.
You know what they say. Everybody knows what happens and what gets shouted. Like they're deliberately trying to do it. I don't know. Right. We'll move on to a couple more things. I don't want to keep you too long.
No, I'm loving this, man. Keep it going.
Excellent. Right. I just need to do a bit of wizardry behind the scenes with my buttons.
Do your magic. Do your strategical, technical
what we're
magic.
Going to talk about next, Louis.
Oh, boy. All right.
We're getting into the weeds now. We're getting into the weeds. Right. Start of the season. 5 games there. And if you looked at I think it was Opta did first 10 games, I believe, who had the easiest start, who had the hardest start based on fixtures home and away and level of opposition. Villa were classed as having the easiest start out of every single Premier League club. What's gone wrong?
Right. Before I get into that, I do want to say this, though, because you have been reading it, I've been reading it, I've been hearing it a little bit. It's no longer frustration with Unai Emery, but some people want him out. Like, that's what I'm reading. And of course, we're not in the business of appeasing to every single negative comment or troll or whatever. But I do want to remind everybody just some context. We're talking about a manager who came to the club at a time when this football club was above the waters of relegation. In less than one season, he brought Villa to European football. Then he did it again in the Champions League. And then he did it again in the Europa League. He has the most points per game out of any manager in the Premier League history. He has the highest win rate. He has the highest away game win rate. He has the highest top flight win rate. And he's achieved European football, as I mentioned, in 3 consecutive seasons. Okay? And this is all thanks to our friends at ABC Stato. Okay? But I didn't need to read any stats to know just how important, how valuable, how incredible Unai Emery has been for this club. So any person that says Emery out right now, please, you need to shut down the screen, go outside, go have a walk in the park, go to the beach, go hug somebody, because it's absolute nonsense. Unai Emery is the greatest thing that's happened to this club in recent modern football history. That's how important this person is. Am I frustrated with Unai Emery? Yes, because I do want him to be more flexible from the build-up football. I want him to be a little bit more lenient when it comes to bringing on substitutions or rotations. I want him to be more aggressive and not be so eloquent in thinking that direct football doesn't work, because it does. I want us to be more physical. I want us to be more, pro when it comes to just getting stuck in and understanding that Route 1 football sometimes can work as well. I want him to do a lot of things, but not for one iota of a millisecond do I want him to leave this football club, because what he has done for Aston Villa Football Club has been remarkable. So with that, go ahead. Let's talk about the beginning of the season. But any kind of insinuation that this man should leave this club is ridiculous, insulting, and ignorant. Unai Emery has been magnificent. And by the way, throughout the entire thing, he's been nothing but a gentleman. So he deserves your same kind of respect.
I just think that deserves one of these, which I normally reserve for my Monday night.
I just can't take it anymore, man. I can't take it. I understand that we live in this world where, like, the moment you see something, you feel it, you want to post it, and you don't care, and you don't take a breather, and maybe it's got something to do with your own mental state. That's fine. But people need to just relax, calm down, because this man has worked tirelessly and has already proven just how important he has been to this football club. We would be maybe in the championship were it not for this man. Okay, and the fact that you were all there to witness a 1-0 win against Bayern Munich and almost beat the eventual champion PSG is remarkable. So please,
that was
owe him a note of respect.
No, we to be honest, you beat me to it, because we were going to finish on Unai, but we will talk about him now. We'll talk about the fixtures in a minute. I'm lucky enough to have an early copy of Guillaume Balaguer's book, The Rise of the Villains, and I've scheduled an interview with him pretty soon, hopefully, where we're going to discuss it, and I'm working my way through it.
Fantastic.
And it is mesmerising. Honestly, I cannot recommend it enough. I'm about a quarter of the way through it at the moment, because I'm trying to do it between working and doing this and everything else and family. So I'm trying my best to read as quickly as I can, but it is unbelievable. He not only talks about Villa, but he goes back to the very start where Unai started, his family history, Real Union, his father, his uncle's relationship, his brothers, what he does for the community. In every club he's been at, he's bought local family-owned businesses that have been struggling, invested in them, and kept them going. I had no idea. So this is a man of not only incredible footballing brain, but he's a man of integrity. He's a man of passion. He's not particularly religious, but he does lean that way, and he does ask for help. He's a family man. He looked after his mother. When his father passed away, he goes home every single time he can. He bought Rail Union and saved them from going out of business. And that's forgetting what he's done. I think as an English fan base and in this country, the first time a lot of people would have been aware of him was the Arsenal job, which didn't go well, but he was in after Wenger, and he also wasn't, I don't think, given the autonomy that he got given at Villa and has been given at Villa. But honestly, I haven't even started on how he started to revolutionise Villa becoming, but it is a phenomenal read. And
yeah, I mean,
I understand the frustration of the fans. I really do. I can't. I'm never going to come on here and tell people how to feel. I don't want negativity. I hate that side of it. But I cannot emphasise enough, like you have just said, we have to stick with this man.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not surprised about Guillaume Balaguer. Obviously, he's a wonderful writer, and I can't wait to read it myself. But much of Unai Emery's journey and trajectory, as you know, like I know as well, and I'm not surprised about, the charity aspect of the human aspect of his game. I interviewed him multiple times, and the first and last thing he always talks about is the fans and the community and how important that is.
A soundbite. That is from his heart. He does it for us.
He's so passionate about that. Yeah, he's so passionate about. Yeah, he's so passionate about the bridge and the connection between him and fans. And listen, like, we can talk about his football resume. And by the way, I say this all the time. I said it to Ian Wright, my friend Ian Wright. I said it to him because we were talking about it a few years ago on his podcast about, my thoughts on Emery and Arsenal's views on him. It's like, people have real short memories and they forget that Unai Emery, like you said, overtook Arsenal after Arsene Wenger, which is as difficult as overtaking Sir Alex Ferguson, 100%. Which was like the same thing, right? But Unai Emery, by the end of his first season, took them to a Europa League final and a higher place in the Premier League table than Arsene Wenger's last season. So he did a job. It's just that he didn't do the job that you thought he was going to do. Now, you go back before Arsenal, the things that he did with Valencia were absolutely remarkable, taking them to Champions League football. This is a club as well that was like struggling. He did the same thing there. Okay, I think Spartak Moscow was probably his toughest gig, but at PSG, he did pretty much everything aside from winning the Champions League. Villarreal, tiny little Villarreal, took them to the semi-finals of the Champions League.
What's English Villarreal equivalent to, Lewis? Tell me, tell the fact.
Villarreal is like, there are championship teams that have more money in that time than Villarreal. Yeah. Villarreal is a tiny club that punches above its weight because of its history, because of its culture, because of its philosophy, and it's many clubs like that in Spain. But Villarreal is a very proud, historical club. Juan Román Riquelme, one of my favorite players ever, played for Villarreal. Like, they have history, but obviously when you're trying to compete against the likes of Real Madrid or Barcelona, nowhere near, right? This man took Villarreal to I haven't even talked about Europa League trophies, who, by the way, Unai Emery has the record for. He took them to Champions League glory, beating Bayern Munich to make the semi-final, one game away from making the final. And this is a team that has no business going that far in the Champions League. And he did that. He won the Europa League with Sevilla, of course, multiple times. Like, the body of work that Unai Emery has is just remarkable. So now we can definitely talk about this beginning of the season. Absolutely. I can definitely be frustrated about what he's doing, but not for 1 second disregard just what kind of manager Unai Emery is, because his body of work is remarkable. I would love to see a manager go to Spain, go to Russia, go to France, go to England and deliver the way that he has done.
I'm not going to give you another applause, but I should give you another applause. But no, absolutely, I totally agree with you. I just think it would be one of the biggest mistakes we've ever made. And yes, things aren't great. We'll get into that now. We'll finish off on how the season has started and where we think we're going to go from here and what needs to change. But yeah, I mean, one more thing on Emery before we move on. His first job, he was a player. I can't remember the club's name. You might know it. But he was then given the job at 30 years of age, 30, 31, I think, 32. And the owner said, because see the potential in him, and said, will you take the manager's job? And then he went from a teammate to a manager, and I think he got promoted. I'm just getting to the point now. I think he got him promoted.
Well, he suffered a knee injury for Lorca. That was we're talking a long time, and that's when he was offered the job. The team's Lorca, yeah. And then before then, he went to Almeria, yeah, and he did. He pulled him out. The team finished, I think, like nearly 70 points, and that was only 5 points of promotion to the top flight.
Yeah.
Right after Emery's departure, but then he moved to Almeria in Division 2. He got them promotion as well, and that's when he went to Valencia. I mean, his body of work is just absolutely remarkable. And
make no doubt about it, what's happening currently is hurting him.
Yes. Oh my God, he can't sleep, bro. 100%.
Hours and hours and days and years into every single, and nothing happens by accident on the football pitch when an Unai Emery team goes out. Everything is meticulously planned. So for this not to be working to this extent will be keeping him up at night. I doubt he slept since the first game of the season.
Yeah. So now we can definitely talk about and criticize him. I mean, go ahead, but we can definitely talk about what I think he should be doing and what I'm frustrated with.
And that's fine. And that's fine. We can do that, but don't
100%.
We can sit. I can sit here and say, yes, it's slow. Yes, we're not going through the transitions quickly enough. The wide players aren't hugging the touchline. We're very narrow. All these issues that we can see blatantly in front of our eyes. Yes, but I'll just back him to come up with a solution.
100%. All right. So the first problem is so obvious.
Tuck in.
The slow build-up process right now is not working. It's just not. Brentford did a very good job. I mean, if we just go back to the Newcastle game, the opener, you could see that we were still pretty much in preseason phase. And Newcastle, they knew what they wanted. They were obviously because the Alexander Isak situation was just coming out. Newcastle, with their usual high press tempo, exploit that midfield. Boom, they went at it. And Villa were just struggling, and at the very least, kept that clean sheet. Fine, we got over that.
I think we'd have won that if we hadn't have gone down to 10 as well, because we were to make the changes.
100%. Villa actually ended up improving. The red card obviously just meant, we had to sit back and everything. So we held on for dear life at that point. Fine. The Brentford game, extremely disappointing. Possession was heavy, but there were not enough creations on target. And Brentford obviously did the low block. And this is a classic Villa issue. Very, very difficult against low block teams. Brentford, with their new manager, decided to hold on and just played off that counter-attack. Pau Torres, we all know, is not the fastest center back. Couldn't keep up. Boom. Obviously, that counter-attacking goal just. And if you look at the stats, go ahead.
17 shots on target in that game. So as a standalone game, 76% possession, 17 shots on target. The conversion was the problem for Brentford. We had no problem with possession. We had no problem with where we was on the pitch. I think our average positions, we was high up. You look at the momentum bar there, it was all Villa.
Yeah, it was just couldn't beat the low block, just couldn't beat the low block, couldn't beat the low block team. Disappointing to lose, and the frustration began to surface by Villa fans, mainly because we just have essentially one plan, which is like slow build up, keep that ball, go wide, look for those fullbacks, try and find Ollie Watkins, maybe Morgan Rogers penetrates every single time, right? So fine. Then the Palace game was an absolute disaster. But it's for two reasons. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the timing of that defeat, coming off the back of two games where I do genuinely think we could have won, that's the game that really kickstarted this negativity. It sort of supercharged the negativity because it was such a woeful performance, and obviously a heavy.
It was also, and it was PTSD because we know how much we lose. Oliver Glasner is a tremendous manager, and he has figured out Unai Emery's system to an absolute T. Now, having said that, Villa did start very well in this game and actually improved as well until their third goal. That was the issue. Until Mark Gay scored that banger. Villa were actually doing some things. It's just that Palace are so good at figuring out Villa, specifically in that midfield. We weren't as strong, we weren't as agile. Crystal Palace team, by the way, where Mark Gay was on his way to Liverpool. So, and he still played. Dibu Martinez decided not to. So you already had this mental obstacle of that game. And to your point, I think that's when everything really began to really surface. The Everton game, an Everton team, by the way, that felt very confident. I think defensively, it was fantastic. Brilliant. I think defensively, Aston Villa were very, very good, really committed. Matty Cash was wonderful. Everybody knew their job. Bogard was magnificent. A reminder that it was, again, without, our most important player, definitely on the outfield in Bouba Kamara. And so holding on to that point was great. The problem is, it's now we're getting the rhetoric of still no goals. Yeah. Where is our offensive creativity? And this, Justin, is where I start to put on also the blame. Not blame is harsh, but the criticism, and they know it. They're more than aware of it. They don't need me to remind them. But players like Morgan Rogers are not doing what I think they're capable of doing. And Morgan Rogers knows it. He knows that he needs to be better. And I said it on social media that I think actually what could be really healthy for him, and this is where Unai Emery comes in, is that he actually sits on the bench and he understands that his starting role is not guaranteed. Yeah, it's not. And I think that Morgan Rogers has not been good enough at the beginning of the season. I know that he can be, because he is a remarkable talent, an incredible young man, an amazing asset for Aston Villa. Most of the creativity is built around him. It's not built around Ollie Watkins. It's built around him. So when he doesn't work, a lot doesn't make sense. But I think that he needs a break. I don't know, maybe if the Carabao Cup was that break, because he didn't start in it, obviously. But that's an issue. And when you combine it to the fact that we're not being inventive enough creatively, and this is my Unai Emery criticism, we need to be more multi-diverse when it comes to creativity. We can't just try and build up, go wide, hope for the 1-2, and it doesn't work, and then people counter us. We need to be more direct. We need to be quicker. We need to take more attempts outside of the box. We need to be way more physical. But also that comes into player responsibility, and Morgan Rogers is one of them. I think he knows it. He doesn't need me to tell him that he needs to be better.
100%. So the Brentford game, we all know, tight game, took the lead. Brilliant.
But I saw an improvement. I did see an improvement. I agree with Unai Emery. I did see an improvement in that game. I did see it. I did see an improvement. I think the Sunderland game is a game where I really hope to see Harvey Elliott start. Yep. I hope us to take more risks. And I'm hoping that Unai Emery and the team understand that there's more than one way to cook a good meal, okay? You don't just have to do it in the way that you think it. And Sunderland and the Stadium Light will be up for it, no doubt. But let's be real here. This is a newly promoted team, okay? And this is Aston Villa Football Club under a very good manager with very good players. It's time to really wake up now and get this victory and get a shot, please. Get some goals, because I'm hoping that at the very least that's what the Brentford game did.
So we'll finish up one more thing. I'm going to get your opinion now on. This is going to be an interesting one on.
Let's see what you got cooking.
Right. This is Miguel Echegaray, and he's going to pick the team that's going to win our first game of the season.
I'm gonna pick the team that wins. Okay. So no pressure, right?
Okay. So in goal.
Well, Dibu Martinez is the obvious.
Okay. Right back.
Matty Cash, he has earned it. I think he's playing really well. Probably one of the best players right now in this very difficult time.
Good. 2 central defenders.
I think Ezri Konsa comes in here. And
this is the big one.
Because of the athleticism of Sunderland, because they've got some new players in there. They're very agile. Tyrone Mings has to be next to him.
Yeah, I had him down as well.
This is not.
I've done mine already, so I'm going to see how close you are to where I am.
This is not a Pau Torres situation. This is with the same argument, Justin. I have to believe that we need much more dynamism on the left wing, and I have to put Ian Maatsen in there.
Right. That's where we differ for the first time.
But I'm okay with Lucas Dean starting. I understand why.
Yeah.
Like my reasoning is because I think Maatsen offensively can be more provocative against this Sunderland side. But I'm not against Lucas Dean starting. Obviously, we know his crossing abilities, we know his experience, and he can exploit that against a newly promoted team. So I'm okay if it's Maatsen or Dean. I would have Maatsen. If it's Dean, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
I've sort of had a bit of a thought this last week. Do you think that we suffer a little bit from having two first-choice left-backs? By that I mean we haven't got a natural first start, a natural first choice, and then an understudy that both you would class as easily startable every game. So it's a difficult one to balance. Whereas
possibly,
if he's fit, he plays. We've got Garcia who will hopefully push him when fit. I don't know. I just think sometimes it can be a little bit counterproductive, maybe.
Possibly, but don't you think that's an argument that's being made early in the season? Let's ask that when the Europa League is in and we have to play all these matches and stuff. So, but it's a good problem to have, right? Like, and as long as they're both happy, it's a good problem to have. So I'm okay with either one. I would have Maatsen myself. I want that speed. I want that done. Like, I love how he pushes inside the box. He doesn't just cross. But if it's Dean, that's fine. It's not a problem. All right, this is where it gets obviously interesting because Bouba Kamara is back.
Yeah.
And so if he's fit and he's ready, I don't know, you have to remind me how many minutes he played against Brentford.
About half an hour, I think. No, 20 minutes. But I think that's enough. It's Bouba Kamara. To me, it's a no-brainer. The most important outfield player to me. Bouba Kamara has to play in that box right there. Who partners him with more than likely Anana out. Tielemans definitely out. This is one of two, I think.
Yeah. So here's where it gets interesting because to me, obviously Bogart has done such a good job since he's come on, but John McGinn is at his absolute best when he's right in that middle, getting stuck in, changing and moving. John McGinn has to be in here. I don't want him on the left side. I don't want any of that. Okay, so I would put
Kamara in mine.
Yeah, so I understand why you would do that because I think you want extra protection in a vulnerable situation
as well.
Yeah, my thinking is screw that. Let's go all out. Let's be confident. I'm South American after all. Let's get it going. And with Bouba Kamara being back, I'm feeling a little bit safer in that center midfield.
The key for this one is this player here, probably and arguably our most important player when match fit and 100% firing.
100%.
Okay.
And then it gets interesting because
you just stick Ollie up top because we all know he's going to start.
Yeah, Ollie Watkins is starting. We got no issues.
Now this is the big one. Well, who are the three in behind? This is where we've struggled all season. We've tried every single.
Well, Justin, where did I begin? Morgan Rogers needs to learn what it's like that his place is not guaranteed. Right, okay. I am not starting him here.
Right.
I'm not starting Morgan Rogers. I think he needs to know what it's like to fight for your place. And he needs to know and remember that he is a remarkable talent. And he needs to know that he is not guaranteed a starting spot. I don't start him. Okay. I don't. And I think what I do here then is I put Harvey Elliott right up there. Yep, right in there, right behind Ollie Watkins. And then I put, and then I think I go with Emi Buendia on one side.
I liked him on the left against Everton. I thought he did a good job there, yeah. I kind of like the idea of Emi Buendia and Elliott together. I mean, I know Unai Emery's not going to do this. He's going to start Morgan Rogers. I really believe that Morgan Rogers needs to know, even if it's just for a half, you bring him on in the second 45 to know what it's like. I want Unai Emery to say to him, Morgan, you are the future of this club. We build everything about you. But right now, you are not guaranteed a starting 11. I need you to fight for your place once again. And I promise you, if he did that, he would come on and absolutely light it up. But anyway, this is what I have. And then on the other side, I mean, I know some people are going to hate me for this, but, we put Malen in there again because I really believe that he had a good preseason.
and he started well, and he was okay against Brentford. I'm okay if we put somebody else in, but I think like this is what I would do against Sunderland. Now people are going to say to me, "No, you got to have Morgan Rogers in there." To me, it's a mental thing. This boy is so good, but he needs to know that not everything in life, unless it's taxes or death, is guaranteed.
So I'll tell
what do
you
you have?
What I did was the only two differences. I'm not a massive fan of playing McGinn on the right, but I think he can do it. I did keep Bogard in the double pivot, and like you say,
oh, I like that.
I stuck Rogers on the left with Elliott.
Oh, you know what? Now I changed my mind. That's really nice. No. But I'm not changing fully. I'm taking Rogers out and putting Jadon Sancho instead of Rogers, and now we got a team.
Okay, I don't mind that, to be honest. I don't mind.
I know people are going to yell at me and go, Morgan Rogers. Like, but what you've seen from him this season, he needs to know what he's doing. But this is a good one. But you have
to start based on performance alone and nothing to do with last season. No. Is he a game changer if he can suddenly get his form back? Yes. I just think this one here would allow sort of McGinn to help out here. It gives us a very strong sort of structure as a 4 and a 3. And then I think almost a 3 up top, which is
and that, by the way, is McGinn Scotland's responsibilities too. So it's very, I'm not against it.
One more question on Unai, and then we'll call it a night.
No, but I think we can say, Justin, regardless of lineup, every single player, maybe not Dibu Martinez, because his performance against Everton was absolutely magnificent.
Yeah,
but everybody else. Even Bogart, to be honest, they need to know that they need to step up. Every single one. This can't just be on Unai Emery. I know that we're going to get on him to finish up, but every single player knows that they need to now deliver. And it's quicker football, more physical, mental, whatever it is, every single one. Aside from Dibu Martinez, who absolutely redeemed himself against Everton. Every single one, I think. And Matty Cash possibly, because he has been working his heart out. But aside from that, everybody knows that they need to deliver.
I think that's it, Lewis. I think it's been a joy. I knew it would be. As soon as I messaged you, I thought, I'm going to get on to give me my positive vibe back. The man from the New York City.
Wearing a shirt that you kindly bought for me when I asked you to buy it for me.
I am his
the good old days. You're my kit dealer. Now, listen, I appreciate it, Justin. Keep shining with the show. I love it. But optimism, Villa fans. It's still very early. This isn't a sprint. It's a marathon. But for goodness sake, show some respect to the man who brought us up from almost nothing. Unai Emery deserves everything and then some. He will get this right.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining me. If you see this in the top right-hand corner, this is Substack, which I have joined. And also, if you head over and follow me, you'll find this gentleman here as well, also on Substack.
Yeah.
What are you doing with yourself these days? Where can people find you?
Yeah, the Substack is one I just joined. It's just to get things going and to just check out some really great content as yourself. Yeah, really good. I'm on Threads and I'm on Instagram. And obviously, when you tag this show, they can find me there. I know that my name is very long and stuff, but yeah, I'm on all those channels. And I'm as I announced on social, I left ESPN a week and a half ago. So I'm doing a lot of different things, but I'm open to having conversations with great people such as yourself. I love this football club more than life itself. I want it to succeed. So anybody that's a Villa fan, wherever you are, I'm more than happy to chat and, cheer on the Villains. Up to Villa now and always.
And on that note, I'll leave you. Thanks very much for watching. Subscribe to the channel, drop me a like, and get involved in the comments. Lewis, I'll speak to you again soon. Up the Villa.